Katz, interviewer Kenneth Glickman.
My name is David Katz. I was born in Mukachevo, Czechoslovakia.
What time you were free?
In March 1944, the Germans came into Munkac. Didn't last more than 2 days. All the Jews were ordered to wear yellow stars. And after it was Pesach, I remember. Right after Pesach, we were all ordered to go into the ghetto. We were in the ghetto approximately 4 weeks. And then they took us from the ghetto to Auschwitz. I arrived from Munkac. They took us in a freight train to Birkenau. I came to Birkenau approximately the beginning of June. And as we arrived in Birkenau approximately 4 o'clock in the morning, and as right away they took us down from the trains and they separated the woman from the man, and they sent us in lines, and there was a man, I believe it was Mengele, who selected with one hand left, one hand right. I was sent to right. Before I knew, I was only left with one brother. And Birkenau, I was there approximately till about 8 o'clock in the morning. They separated me right away from my brother too, and they took me to Auschwitz. In Auschwitz I was about 10 days. Then they sent me to a labor camp in Eintrachtshütte. I arrived in Eintrachtshütte approximately in the middle of June. It was before Schweers. As a matter of fact, it was the first day of Schweers. In Eintrachtshütte I was till 1945 January, when the Russians came close. They evacuated us by train to Mauthausen. In Mauthausen I was approximately 3 days. From there I was sent to Gosen. In Gosen I was only 1 day. From there I went by train to Gröditz. In Gröditz I was from end of January until in the beginning of April. In April, beginning of April, we walked from Gröditz till Leitmeritz. I was in Leitmeritz 2 days. From there we walked to Theresienstadt. And May the 10th, I was liberated by the Russians.
Were you in the same town before the ghetto was set up in Mukachevo?
Yes, I was in the same town.
When was the ghetto in your town set up?
In the beginning of April.
What anti-Jewish actions were taken before the ghetto was established, including pogroms, state dates and details? Were they organized by Germans or others, or jointly?
Well, there was actually anti-Jewish action by anti-Semites, but in particular there was no anti-Jewish actions before then.
Did any of your family live in the same ghetto with you? What work did you do in the ghetto?
We didn't work in the ghetto.
Since you were in your hometown, how did the townspeople view refugees from other places?
Well, I was a young boy in that time. I really don't know. Brought from around town, from around Munkach, from the small villages. They brought them in a Munkach, but they didn't put them in a ghetto. They put them in a brick factory.
Were you allowed to leave the ghetto at first? And if so, for how long?
Well, officially we weren't allowed to leave the ghetto, but the ghetto wasn't surrounded. We could go out and in if nobody catches us.
Approximately, what was the size of the ghetto?
About 20 blocks.
Was there a wall?
No, there was no wall, but there was only certain streets where all the Jews were pushed into. No physical boundary.
Is there any organization of the guards of the gates or hours of entry or pass system?
Well, in the ghetto they set up a Judenrat and they set up Jewish police in the end of the streets where you are not allowed to go out. Jewish police usually was guarding it. In some places there was the Hungarian gendarmerie.
What was the nature of guards? Were they Jewish, German, Polish, or others?
Well, mostly it was Hungarian. And Jewish police was organized to help them out.
Did you have any knowledge of what went on outside of Nazi territory?
Well, we had some knowledge, but I guess we just didn't believe it's going to happen to us. Yes, we had the radio and we heard everything about the war and everything.
Were there any underground newspapers or leaflets?
Not of my knowledge.
Did you send or receive letters from abroad?
Well, I don't remember if we received, but the mail was going on.
Who conducted mail service? Okay.
I don't remember exactly, but I guess all the mail from the ghetto was brought into the ghetto and it was delivered through the Judenrat.
When did you know the truth about extermination and the gas chambers?
In Auschwitz.
Did you have any personal or family plans to escape the ghetto?
No, we didn't.
What did you eat in the ghetto at different times?
Well, when we went to the ghetto, we brought food along, and we eat whatever we had.
What were the size of the rations once you ran out of your own food?
There was kitchen set up in the ghetto, but we were lucky. When we went to the ghetto, I had an uncle living in that one of the streets where the ghetto was. So we lived with our uncle, and we had some food left. We weren't too long there, so I guess I can't tell you nothing about the rations.
You know the method of this food distribution and who distributed it?
The method was organized kitchen by the Judenrat, and the Judenrat distributed.
What was the size of the living space you had?
We had 3 rooms, and in that 3 rooms we lived with my uncle, about 16 persons.
Were there any cooking or sanitary arrangements?
Well, it was a normal home. There was cooking like at home.
Was there any available coal or wood for heating?
We had some wood left from the winter, but it was already in the springtime, and I guess we didn't need too much wood for heat.
What pre-war political parties were there?
Well, as political parties is concerned, to my knowledge, Hungary in that time was a dictatorship, and there was only one party which belongs to the government.
Who were the Jewish leaders in the town before 1939?
I don't remember their names.
Do you know what happened to them during the war?
Well, they went to Auschwitz, as far as I know.
How was the first Judenrat appointed?
That I can't tell you exactly. I wouldn't remember that.
Who were the people in it?
Well, they're probably from the Jewish agency that they had from before.
Try to describe the Judenrat's development as far as leadership and organization are concerned throughout the time.
There was really no time for organization because the whole ghetto didn't last more than 4 weeks.
How many Jewish police were there?
I don't know exactly, but I think there were approximately about 200.
Were they subject to the Judenrat or did they rule it?
It wasn't that organized yet.
Were the Jewish police under German supervision or under Polish blue police supervision?
Or supervised by the Judenrat.
When did you arrive at Auschwitz? By where, from where, and by what means of transportation?
We walked from Birkenau to Auschwitz. It wasn't too far. It was approximately, I don't remember exactly, but about 3 hours walk. Birkenau, I went by a freight train.
Did you arrive alone or with members of your family?
It was members of the family.
Do you know what happened to them?
My mother and my younger sister, my father, and my younger brother was sent right away to the left. That meant to the crematorium. Me and one brother went to right, but I lasted with him only for about a couple of hours, and then I was separated from him too.
Was there selection on arrival, and at that time, did you know what it meant?
I didn't know it at that time, but when I arrived to Auschwitz, I asked somebody, and they told me what it meant.
Describe the location and size of the camp and its guard system.
Well, it was very big. I can't describe you the size of the camp because all what I saw was the barrack where I was located. And Birkenau, I can't describe you at all because I was there only a few hours. In Auschwitz, there were built houses, brick houses. There were, as far as I can remember, about maybe 30 blocks, maybe less, maybe more. Well, the guard system, I really didn't see them, but there were SS mixed with Wehrmacht.
Do you know any of the names of the commanders, officers, and men that you remember? And can you categorize them?
No, I don't.
How many Germans guarded the camp?
I have no idea.
Were the guards mostly German SS or did they belong to other units?
In Auschwitz, I couldn't tell you because I wasn't long enough to notice it.
Do you remember incidents that could be used to accuse individual Nazis as war criminals?
No, I don't.
What was the composition of the inmates, their numbers, ages, sex, or Jews and non-Jews, and the towns or areas of their origin?
In Auschwitz, there were 99% Jews. I think the Blockelster, who was the only one who was non-Jew.
The numbers and their ages?
I don't remember the number. The ages must have been from 16 till 50, all men. In the block I was, there were 80% from Hungary, from the Carpathian, some Romanians.
What did the work consist of?
I didn't work there in Auschwitz.
Could you describe the kapos?
Since I didn't work, I didn't have no kapos either in Auschwitz.
Can you describe the food?
In the morning we got black bitter coffee, and at lunchtime we got a soup, and for supper time we got a quarter of bread with margarine or marmalade, or sometimes they give us a little bit of wurst.
Can you describe the daily routine?
We didn't have no daily routine in Auschwitz.
Were people killed?
Auschwitz was a very big camp. They probably were, but not what I saw.
Were there any attempts to escape?
Not of my knowledge.
Was there any organized underground or planned resistance or contact with the outside?
When I was there, I didn't hear about it, but there probably was, since I heard about it afterwards.
Was there any attempts at cultural activity?
Not at the time when I was there, or where I was.
Were there any children in the camp, hidden or in the open?
Not as far as I know.
What was the relationships between the Jewish inmates?
Not too bad.
Was there any antagonisms between groups from the same town, between groups from different towns, or between Polish and other Jews?
Not in that block where I was.
Did you receive help from fellow inmates?
Nothing they could help me with.
You ill? And did you recover?
No, I wasn't there in Auschwitz.
Was there medical attention of any kind, either German or Jewish personnel, or was it official or clandestine?
It probably was, but I didn't see it.
Describe the clothing and the sanitary conditions.
Well, we wear striped, looked like pajamas, black and white. The sanitary conditions was not bad.
Did you or anyone else receive mail officially?
No, we didn't. Well, Eintrachtshütte was located about 10 kilometers from Königshütte. And it was a camp not too big. We were approximately 1,000 inmates there. The whole camp contained from about 5 barracks. And there were mostly the inmates worked in ammunition factories.
Date of arrival at the camp, and by where and what method of transportation?
We arrived in Eintrachtshütte by truck, approximately in the beginning or in middle of June.
Did you arrive alone or with members of your family?
Alone.
Was there a selection on arrival?
No, there it was no selection anymore. There was already a work camp.
Describe the location and the size of the camp, its guard system, and how was the camp set up?
The location of the camp was near a ammunition factory. It was surrounded with electric wires, and it was guarded by watchtowers.
Can you name the commanders, officers, and men that you remember?
I don't remember any names.
How many Germans guarded the camp?
I don't know exactly, but it must have been about 100, maybe less, maybe more. They were all Germans.
Are the Germans SS, or did they belong to other units?
The officers were SS. The plain watchmen belonged to the Wehrmacht.
Do you remember incidents that could be used to accuse individual Nazis as war criminals?
No, I don't remember.
What was the composition of the inmates, its numbers, their ages, their sexes? Were they Jews, non-Jews, and the towns or areas of origin?
Well, there were the composition of them was mixed, Jews and non-Jews, but 80% Jews.
How many?
Approximately 1,000 inmates was there.
Their ages?
But the ages were between 16 and 55.
And their sex?
All male.
And the towns?
No, they were mixed. They were Polish, Hungarian, Romanian, from Holland, from Belgium. Mostly were from Hungary.
What did the work consist of?
Well, about 10% worked on canalization, the rest worked on munition factories.
Could you describe the kapos?
Well, I can describe them. I remember one very bad one whose name was Martin, but he was killed in Mauthausen when we arrived.
Can you describe the food?
Well, the food considering wasn't so bad. We had, when we got up 6 o'clock in the morning, we got a black coffee. And we got around 10 o'clock by work, we got a sixth of bread. And lunchtime we had soup. And we had, when we came home from work, we got a quarter of a bread with marmalade or with margarine or sometimes with wurst to it.
Can you describe the daily routine?
Well, we got up around 5:30 in the morning. We had to stand for appel. And after we got after they counted us, we got a black coffee. And then we had to walk to work because I worked in Königsüte. It was approximately 10 kilometers. It wasn't even 10 kilometers. It was a walking distance. I don't know exactly how many kilometers it was. Then we walked to work. We arrived to work before 8 o'clock. And 8 o'clock we worked till about 10, and then we got our breakfast. And then we went back to work till 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock we got our lunchtime, and we worked till 6, then we walked home. At home we got supper, and then we rested and we went to sleep.
Were people killed?
Yes, there were some people killed.
Do you know how or by whom? Were they German or non-German?
Well, they were hanged in the camp, and they were hanged by the Germans.
Were there any attempts to escape?
Yes, there were, but most of the time they caught them. That's when they got killed, and if they caught them alive, they hang them. They made a public hanging.
Were there any were there any organized underground plan resistance or contact with the outside?
Well, I don't know if there was any contact with the outside, but if there was, I didn't know nothing about it.
Are there any attempts at cultural activity?
No, there was no attempt of any cultural activity in the camp.
Are there any children in the camp, either hidden or in the open?
No, there wasn't.
What were the relations between the Jewish inmates? Were there antagonism between people from the same town, between groups from different towns, or between Poles and other Jews?
Well, the Polish and the Hungarian Jews, they didn't like too much each other, but we got along.
Did you receive help from fellow inmates?
Well, there was nothing with what they could help us, not as far as I know.
Were you ill?
No, I wasn't ill.
Is there any medical attention of any kind?
Yes, it was. Well, it was official. You had a lazaret, they called it. If you got sick, they took you in the lazaret, and there were doctors there. And when you got well, they sent you back to work.
Could you describe the clothing and the sanitary conditions?
In that camp, the sanitary conditions was pretty good, and the clothing was, as I said before, Häftling clothing. It looked like a pajama, white and black, striped.
You or anyone else receive any mail officially?
I don't know about anybody else, but I didn't receive.
What was your date of arrival at Mauthausen, and by what method of transportation did you arrive?
I arrived at Mauthausen in January 1945 by freight train.
Did you arrive alone or with members of your family?
I arrived alone.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Was there selection on arrival, or did you know what it meant?
Well, there was no selection of arrival there. And what it meant, we knew what it meant, all right.
Could you describe the location and the size of the camp?
Well, the camp was on a mountain, as far as I remember. I was there only 2 days. The camp was pretty big, but I can't describe you how big it was.
Could you describe its guard system?
Well, the guard system was as usual, SS and Wehrmacht.
Okay, do you know when the camp was set up?
No, I don't know. I was there only 2 days.
Okay, could you name commanders, officers, or men?
No, it wasn't enough time to find out those things there.
How many Germans guarded the camp?
I have no idea.
You know?
Must have been a lot because it was a big camp.
Were there any non-German guards?
I can't tell you that because I don't know. I wasn't there too long.
Were the Germans SS or did they belong to other units?
They were SS and they belonged to other units too.
Do you remember incidents that could be used to accuse individual Nazis as war criminals?
No, not in Mauthausen.
What was the composition of the inmates, the numbers, ages, sexes, Jews, non-Jews, and towns of areas of origin?
Mauthausen, there was a very big camp. I can't tell you how many people it was there. Must have been a lot of people there because there was a crematorium there too. But ages, as far as that is concerned, to Mauthausen, I don't know because I was there only 2 days.
Did you do any work?
No, I didn't.
Could you describe the kapos?
I didn't have any kapos in Mauthausen.
Could you describe the food?
Well, we didn't have food. It was the normal procedure. It wasn't any more as good as it was in the labor camp.
Could you describe the daily routine?
We didn't have no daily routine there.
Were people killed?
They weren't killed, but they were dying without being killed.
No, were they killed though?
Well, I didn't see any who were specially be killed.
Were there attempts to escape?
I don't know.
Was there any organized underground or planned resistance?
If there was, I don't know about it.
Was there any attempts at cultural activity?
I don't know nothing about that either.
Were there any children there?
I don't know. I don't think so.
What were the relations between the Jewish inmates?
In Mauthausen? There was no relation at all.
Was there any antagonism between groups from the same town or between groups from different towns?
No.
Jews?
In those 2 days I was there, it wasn't time to be antagonized.
Did you receive help from any fellow inmates?
No, we didn't.
Were you ill?
No, I wasn't.
Was there medical attention of any kind?
It was, but I didn't see them.
Describe the clothing and the sanitary conditions.
The clothing was the same thing. I had white and black striped pajamas on me. The sanitary conditions there wasn't too good.
Did you or anyone else receive mail?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Well, Gusen, I was there only 1 day, so there is nothing particular I can tell you there. Only thing what I can tell you that I saw that how a person was drowned in water. They pushed his face in water until he was dead.
Date of arrival at the camp, and by what means of transportation did you arrive?
Where to Gusen?
Yeah.
By truck. And it was in January, in the middle of January.
Did you arrive alone or with members of your family?
I arrived by myself.
Was there any selection on arrival?
No, it was not.
Describe the location and the size of the camp.
I can't tell you the location or the size of the camp because I was there only one day. I didn't have enough time to notice it.
You know the guard system?
The guard system was everywhere the same. It's SS and Wehrmacht, electric wires.
Name the command. Could you rename any of the commanders, officers, and men?
No, I can't.
Okay. How many Germans guarded the camp?
I have no idea.
Were they all Germans or were they non-Germans?
I can't tell you because I didn't have enough time to notice it.
Were they German SS or did they belong to other units?
It was SS what I saw, and I saw Wehrmacht, but if it was other Germans, that I can't tell you.
Do you remember incidents that could be used to accuse individual Nazis as war criminals?
No.
That was what you just said.
Yeah, but I can't tell you who it was because I didn't know him.
Describe the incident again.
Well, I saw how they took a person and they put his face in a barrel of water until he drowned.
What was the composition of the inmates? The numbers, ages, sexes?
Well, I can tell you the numbers.